of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, Identity and Influence. My name is Mo, and I'll be sitting in the host chair, but also answering some questions today. And I'm here with my good buddy, Dr. Lim Usita. What's up, man?
Yes, sir. Good to see you, man. Always great to have these conversations about leadership. Looking forward to this conversation, man. Let's go.
Yeah, so this is like a wrap up of some of the stuff that we've been thinking about, talking about during the week. You and I are texting, we're on the phone together during the week, doing stuff for the clients that we have, talking about, getting in and changing things up and trying to help different companies. And we always come across different articles and things that we love. One thing that I
Yeah.
love, and you know that I love, is college football. I
Yes,
am a
sir.
college football buff, and I'm an Alabama guy, Roll Tide. It's been rough since Coach Saban has left, but we'll see how the boys do this year. But my favorite story from college football in the past week or so has been a pretty hard one for one James Franklin. And I had asked
Yeah.
you to kind of look into some of the stuff, and we looked at some articles and stuff together.
Yeah.
And man, Penn State, one of the premier programs in the country. I've always loved watching Penn State. I love the whiteout games where all the fans just wear white and they're just so loud that if you're on the opposing team, you're already at a huge disadvantage. It's such a great atmosphere. It's one
Yeah.
of those top 5 coaching jobs that you want to get. James Franklin has been the coach for I think
Well,
well over a
12
decade now,
seasons.
right? Yeah,
12
yeah, 12
seasons.
seasons. Gosh. And so all of a sudden, he has a bad start, and it was a bad start to the season, and he gets canned in the middle of the season
Yeah.
unexpectedly. So as a non-college football guy, what were your initial thoughts when I had you read through that, and what were you thinking?
No, like you said, I'm not a college football guy at all, but like there are still leadership and identity insights that we can pull from the story, and that part for me is really interesting and exciting. I mean, the biggest thing that stands out to me was when Franklin went on ESPN's College Game Day and he said, "Fair is not for me to decide." Like it shows you a tremendous amount of character. It shows you a tremendous amount of security in who he is, not just as a coach, but as a person. And I mean, it seems like a pretty unfair thing that happened to him. But like, but for someone with strength of character and strength of identity to say, no, fair is not for me to decide, and this is the situation that I'm in. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you the first thing that I thought about when I heard it was he was refusing to accept a victim mindset.
Yeah.
He didn't go
Yeah.
there. He refused to go there. And
Right.
everybody, in fact, when he was on College Game Day, it was his first appearance live and in front of everybody. And I remember watching it thinking, man, what is this guy going to say? And
Yeah.
you're right. He understood that leadership requires ownership, or as Jocko Willink calls, extreme ownership,
Yeah.
and not excuses. And so, in fact, Jocko, and I wrote this down, he said, leaders must own everything in their world. There's no one else to blame. And
Yeah.
that's what I heard from James Franklin. It was, he demonstrated that exact mindset. He took
Yeah.
responsibility for the things that he could control, and he wasn't willing to step into the stuff that he couldn't control, which was a heck of a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't necessarily blame anyone. He didn't blame his players. He didn't blame, anyone. He took full responsibility, even when the outcome felt unjust. I mean, it kind of gives, credibility to his leadership. It kind of just demonstrates his leadership ability. Again, I don't know, but like respond to that. Give me some insight into like his leadership credibility because he didn't do that.
And credibility, responsibility, we talk about that all the time. Responsibility builds trust, right? People follow leaders who own their outcomes, and
Yeah,
they stay away from people who deflect. James Franklin did not deflect.
yeah,
He didn't take the woe is me. He didn't start pointing fingers and give the pseudo blame where people say, well, I'm not going to blame anybody, but if this or if that. He didn't do any of that. He
that's
stayed
true.
composed. He was in front. In fact, all the guys that were sitting on the College Game Day set they were, I think, astonished at how incredible he was. In fact, Simon Sinek talks about responsibility and taking responsibility the way that James Franklin did in his book Leaders Eat Last. Now, Leaders Eat Last is on the top 5 for me. I love that
Mhm.
book. I've read it several
Mhm.
times. I've taken several leaders through it. But what Simon Sinek says in that is when leaders take responsibility, it
Mhm.
creates psychological safety. And
Yeah.
so Franklin's response communicated to the world and to his players, which I'll get to in a second. It said, "Look, I'm still accountable for me," and
Right.
that really is credibility in action. Imagine this: Franklin said during that interview on College Game Day, he said, 15 minutes before he was going to address his team for the following practice after that loss, the AD came in and said, "Hey, we're going to make a change.
Yeah.
And you have 15 minutes to go in, tell your players, and then leave."
Yeah.
He didn't have time to get ready. He didn't have time to
Yeah.
craft a statement. He had to go in and see the young men that he took into battle, so to
Yeah.
speak,
Yeah.
every week, week in and week out, staying up till all hours of the night, thinking about them and their careers and them in the present, them as students, them as student athletes, and all of a sudden just say, well, Penn State's going to go a different way. Bye. I mean, imagine how crazy that was for him. And man,
It,
I was just so glad to know that James Franklin, to me anyway, really embodied what Simon Sinek talks about in Leaders Eat Last, which is credibility in
yeah.
action.
Hey, the fact that he got 15 minutes is still pretty incredible because like I've been in a situation where I've been let go and like I didn't get no 15 minutes. It was like pack up and get out of here. And I was out of there that day. I didn't have no,
Yeah.
I didn't have opportunities to talk to anybody about that. Like so that was pretty cool that he was able to do that. But like the
Well,
bigger
so hold
the
on. What do you do? What did you do? Like even not even having like a day. If somebody comes in and says, "Hey, it's 8 in the morning. Have your box of stuff, and you're out of here at the end of the day." What do you do?
hey man, I left. Didn't throw a fuss. No, I didn't
Yeah.
throw a fuss. It was like, okay, I get it. I understand. I walked out of that meeting, I packed up, and then I was out. I handed in my keys, like, you know, got stuff done. Like, there's no need to complain. There's no need to talk to anybody. I didn't talk badly about anybody. Like, you don't need to do that. When you're secure in
Yeah.
who you are and your leadership, like, there's no need to do that. And that's okay. It's their prerogative. It's also my prerogative, you know. But me, when that stuff happens to me, I'm like, all right, peace out, and I
Yeah.
deal with it later. You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
don't lash out. I don't need to lash out. I don't need to speak badly about anybody. You just move on, like because
Dude, you'd be a great college coach for football because you really do have to have that resiliency. I love that word
yeah,
because these kind of things happen. And I think that's what James Franco was talking about when he said that, look, I'm not going to call it unfair. Now, was he being gracious? Probably a little bit because he
yeah,
talked about how bummed he was, but he understands the game. He understands. I mean, if that
oh
wasn't
yeah,
part, if that wasn't part of the process, then they
yeah,
wouldn't have had the $50 million buyout clause. So they all knew, and so
yeah,
at some point he says, well, obviously that's why they have the buyout clause, because they may want to go a different way, and if that happens, well, then we deal with it when it comes. And it
yeah,
actually came that day for him.
yeah. Well, $50 million, man, that's not little.
He's gonna be okay.
Yeah, he's gonna be all right. But
Yeah.
still, like the psychological and emotional
Yeah.
toll that takes on you, like
Yeah.
that shows you strength of character. It shows you security in your identity. It shows you that, like, well, and he did it for 12 years, from 40 to 53 or 41 to 53. Like he he knew what he was doing and he knew the role that he had and he had the time to grow into it. And so and then like when you look up this incident, you see that there's already articles out there about his next thing. You know what I mean? it
Yeah.
still it still doesn't make him a bad coach. Like there are still schools that, like, hey, he's still got some talent and ability, and he still can do things, and so let's go after this guy. So he's not really hurting for opportunity. It'll be interesting to see, though, how long it takes for him to heal and then jump back in. And I can see him
Yeah.
just jumping back in.
Hmm. Man, I love it.
I mean, talk to me about, you know, somebody that's in a role for 12 seasons. Like, what does that do to your leadership, uh, like ability? You know, you've done it for 12 years. I mean, it you he came across as super secure in what he can do and what he can't do. Like, talk to me about like how did they lose three in a row? I mean, or is that just a really sensitive, you know, administration that can't handle three losses? I mean, you know, like it's both, but like,
It's Penn State, so of course they expect to win.
yeah,
And again, as an Alabama fan for my entire life, what was funny, and I know you watched that interview, but when James Franklin said, I'm not going to call this, I'm not going to say it's unfair, that word again. And Nick
hmm,
Saban says, I'll be the one to say it. It was unfair as hell.
yeah,
Well, sorry for the listeners. I don't mean to cuss, but and so for me, I actually loved that Saban said that,
yeah,
because Saban was thinking about Franklin as a fellow coach and a human being. And if anybody knows how hard it is to coach for a school that expects you to win every single game, literally, and the
hmm,
standard is a championship, anything less than a national championship is not good enough. I
hmm,
mean, he knows. And so when Nick Saban said that, I thought it was powerful. I thought it was part of that healing process for James Franklin. I don't think he was expecting it, but I know he appreciated it. And really, it showed, by from Nick Saban anyway, it showed emotional loyalty.
yeah,
And I know we talk about that in identity. And he was defending a peer publicly,
yeah, yeah,
and he came to bat for him. He was using his platform to speak truth in a tough system. Saban didn't say, well, that's not tough. He said, man, this is tough. This is a tough system. And that's what great leaders do. They advocate for others.
yeah,
They go to bat, and Saban has always had a servant leader's heart, and I love that. Now that he's out of the coaching game and now he's an
yeah,
analyst, all of
yeah,
his old players are coming back and telling these stories that they've kept locked inside and said, "I'm not going to talk about this," and all the stuff about how how Saban just, and Miss Terry, Saban's wife, just loved them
hmm,
as human beings and made them better people.
yeah,
And Saban thought beyond himself a lot, and in this instant, did for James Franklin. And I really appreciate that. It really reminded me of Patrick Lencioni's line: "The ultimate measure of a leader is how they serve the people who
yeah,
cannot pay them back."
yeah,
Franklin can't pay Saban back for helping him, nor does he need to.
yeah,
And it was just a really cool thing to see him come to bat. Not that Franklin needed it. Again, he's going to be fine. Franklin's a
yeah,
big boy. He's a grown man.
yeah,
I'm sure he's been fired before. He might get fired again.
yeah.
But it's just that was neat for me. And if I
Uh,
could say, yeah, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, I was going to say, with you know Franklin saying it was fair, Saban saying it was unfair. Well, who's right? Well, they're probably both right.
Hmm,
Saban's right that the situation was unfair in principle, but
yeah,
Franklin was right that complaining doesn't help.
yeah,
And he didn't say anything about complaining. He just didn't do it. But he knew it wasn't going to help the situation. It would have just made him look bad.
yeah,
Rather than what he did was take the high road. And everybody at the end of that was thinking, man,
yeah,
this guy's, I mean, at least what I've read and seen. And so here's the tension in leadership. If we want to talk about leadership maturity, how do you hold truth and responsibility at the same time?
yeah,
You know, and how do you model self control? Um, in fact, I think back to a Viktor Frankl quote, where he said one time, I think it's between stimulus between stimulus and response is space.
mm. Oh, that's
What do
good.
you do with that space?
Yeah.
And Franklin chose his response wisely, and I thought he did a great job.
You know, he describes himself as a player's coach, you know, emphasizing relationships. He was about his team and the
Yeah.
young men on his team. Talk to me a little bit about like how because he doesn't have to do that as a coach. He doesn't have to do that as a leader. He doesn't have to be about his players, but like his players, like, you know, played for him and wanted to perform for him. Talk to me about him being a player coach and how that impacts his leadership.
Yeah, being a player coach, and he really was. Again, you can't not like James Franklin. You just knew that he was out there for his guys, and everything that he did was to help them get better and be successful in life. And so, in leadership, we know that perception isn't fair, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And so he could have made it all about himself, but again, he chose to make the situation about the people that he loved and he
Yep.
worked for. And
Yeah.
I've learned that you can win an argument, but then you're going to lose influence,
Yeah.
right? So you never want to argue with anybody. In this case, with the media, who is going to say what they're going to say, with people who said good riddance, I'm glad he's gone, or anybody else who was hating on him. The way that he just kept it away from himself, and you know me, my entire body of work in my terminal degree has been on servant leadership.
Yeah.
He really embodied what it meant to be a servant leader that
Man.
day. Because when I watched him talk, I mean, I was glued. In fact, I rewinded it. I told you about it. I was like, man, you got to see this. He chose the high road. He gained peace through the situation, I think, and he's going to gain respect over time. So the moment may have been hard.
Yeah.
But because he responded the way he did, it's going to pay huge dividends later. And I can't wait to see where he coaches next, because he's a young man in coaching years.
Yeah.
And I think any program will be. I'm sure programs have already reached out to him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's probably going to be coaching somewhere very, very soon. But for James Franklin, I would say sometimes silence speaks louder than words in defending yourself. And that's what I've seen from him. And I gained a ton of respect for him as a leader and a person of influence.
Man, I love how this is a wonderful picture of a level 5 leader out of Jim Collins's, idea.
Absolutely.
And I love how you get fired up about like servant leadership and level 5 leadership and just leadership in general. And what a wonderful picture of a leader that can model that for us. So yeah, man, thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, dude, it was good stuff, man. So we'll be back with some more live thoughts, and I appreciate you letting me talk about
I love it.
Football.
It was great.
You know how much I love it, and it'll be on again. It'll be on again tomorrow, man. I'll be up at 9 Eastern, glued to the TV. And if you have comments, for our YouTube audience out there, Facebook, leave them in the thread, and we'd love to answer those. Or what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on James Franklin? And maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed something, but I think the conversation that Dr. Lem and I are having, man, this was such a case study in leadership.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. And so for you out there, those watching on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, what are you doing that's going to make you ready to respond properly the way that James Franklin did? Because you only have one chance to respond correctly. And I'm just so glad that in a world where so many people do it wrong, you got it right. Any last words?
Oh, man. That was
Mic
so
drop.
Good. Let's end there. All right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for making time, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.